Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take a mountain of documents, research notes, historical accounts, and geographical surveys and crystallize them into the knowledge you need.
And today, our mission is to journey into, well, a profound contradiction.
It really is. We're tracking Maud of Wales, a spirited, very fashionable daughter of a British king.
And by all accounts, she was an absolute homebody. She just loved her English country life.
Exactly. Yet her name is now attached to 2.7 million square kilometers of Antarctic territory.
Not to mention a heroic polar exploration route through the Transantarctic Mountains and even an Arctic Gulf up in Canada. It's kind of staggering.
If you were to, draw a map of the globe,
Yeah.
her name is fixed to one of the largest territorial claims in the world.
Yeah.
Queen Maud Land. I mean, it covers an area roughly the size of India.
Wow.
She stabilized a brand new monarchy in Norway, but her legacy is written in ice, rock, and exploration history across two poles.
It's a really remarkable story. It connects the drawing rooms of Victorian England directly to the most isolated scientific outposts on Earth.
So today, we're going to unpack her early life, her unexpected call to queenhood in 1905.
And then we'll really plunge into the dramatic history, the geopolitical maneuvering, and just the sheer scale of the geographical features that carry her name.
It's a perfect example of how soft power can translate, well, directly into global influence.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this journey. We have to start with the life of a British princess who had a bit of a rebellious reputation and earned maybe the most unusual nickname imaginable for a future queen. So, Maud Charlotte Mary Victoria. She was born in 1869 at Marlborough House in London.
Right. And she was the youngest daughter, the fifth child of Albert Edward and Alexandra of Denmark.
So Prince and Princess of Wales at the time.
Exactly. So her father would go on to become King Edward VII, and her grandmother was, of course, Queen Victoria. She's right at the heart of that European royal web.
And what's immediately important about her position, I think, is her upbringing.
Yes, very much so. She grew up in a household managed by her mother, Alexandra, who really cultivated a relatively warm and informal environment.
Which was pretty different from the sometimes rigid atmosphere that Queen Victoria maintained.
Bro, completely different. And this informal setting really allowed Maud's personality to flourish. She was described as, lively, spirited, and having a kind and cheerful disposition.
And she definitely stood out. Our sources note that of the three Wales daughters, Maud was often seen as the most attractive.
Yeah, I found a great description of her from the time. The Empress Frederick wrote in 1895 that Maud looked so pretty and fresh, like a little rose with her bright eyes and dear, intelligent expression.
So it wasn't just about looks. She had a real vitality.
That vitality is exactly what gave rise to her famous moniker. She wasn't, Maudie or something simple like that.
No.
She was known affectionately by the entire royal family as Harry.
Harry? Why Harry? That seems like such an odd choice for a young princess.
Well, it actually speaks volumes about her nature. She was nicknamed Harry after Admiral Henry Keppel.
Okay.
He was a close friend of her father, and he was renowned for his adventurous spirit, especially his conduct during the Crimean War.
So by calling her Harry, the family was basically acknowledging her tomboyish side.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Her penchant for adventure and action, it really set her apart from the stereotypical demure Victorian princess.
And she completely embraced that modern, active lifestyle.
Yeah, this was the era where old Victorian customs were starting to give way to new technologies and freedoms, and Maud was right there at the forefront.
She loved outdoor sports.
Absolutely. And critically, she was among the very first British princesses to ride a bicycle.
Which in the 1890s wasn't just transportation, right? It was a symbol.
It was a huge symbol, a symbol of independence and emancipation for women. So by embracing it, Maud was publicly showing a willingness to engage with modernity, which is something that would really define her later role in Norway.
But despite this sort of spirited independence, she was still very much part of the British establishment.
Oh, totally embedded. She served as a bridesmaid at crucial family weddings. Her Aunt Beatrice's in 1885, her brother George's in 1893.
So she's cementing all those connections.
Exactly. And Queen Victoria also bestowed some very high honors upon her, like the Imperial Order of the Crown of India. So she wasn't some peripheral figure. She was deeply integrated into the symbolic machinery of the British Empire.
So you have this lively, modern, highly connected upbringing. But marriage didn't come easily or quickly by royal standards of the time. She married relatively late.
She did. She waited until her late 20s, marrying in 1896. which was unusual. And before she married Prince Carl, there was this small but very telling romantic detour.
Involving her distant cousin, Prince Francis of Teck.
Yes, the brother of her future sister-in-law, Queen Mary. So there was a connection there.
But it wasn't mutual.
Not at all. It seems Maud was quite interested and even pursued him. But Prince Francis, despite being relatively poor and, saddled with huge gambling debts, actively ignored her.
Wow.
It says a lot about Maud's personal agency that she tried for a match she wanted, but, ultimately she had to pivot away from that disappointment.
And that pivot led her to her eventual partner, her first cousin, Prince Carl of Denmark.
They married in 1896 at Buckingham Palace. Carl was 3 years younger than her, described as good-natured, level-headed. But, as the Duchess of Teck rather bluntly put it at the time, he had no money.
And that lack of money meant their early married life was, let's say, far from glamorous.
Yeah, he was an officer in the Royal Danish Navy, so they lived mostly in Denmark, which was a real source of unhappiness for Maud.
She was just constantly homesick.
Perpetually. Her residence in Copenhagen was apparently furnished to reflect English taste, but, it just wasn't England. She preferred her native customs, her gardening, writing, bicycling.
All of the English country life things.
Right. So her father, recognizing this, gifted them Appleton House on the Sandringham estate.
And this became her sanctuary.
It really did. It wasn't just a second home. It became her adored English country home, a retreat she had to visit every single year.
And it was at this English retreat that their only child, Prince Alexander, was born in 1903. So they're building this quiet, cross-border life.
A life that was completely thrown into political high drama just 2 years later, in 1905.
The year Norway achieves full independence.
Yes, dissolving its 91-year union with Sweden. And the newly sovereign nation needed a head of state, and they needed one fast. The Norwegian parliament, the Storting, voted to offer the throne to Prince Carl.
Okay, let's pause here because this decision was fundamentally geopolitical. Why Carl? A Danish prince with, as we've established, no money.
It was an incredibly calculated diplomatic move. The Norwegians had, let's say, 3 key criteria. First, they wanted a connection to the old royal houses of Scandinavia. Second, someone who could establish a genuinely modern, stable monarchy. And third, and this is the crucial one, they needed immediate, powerful international recognition.
To ward off any potential interference from Sweden or bigger powers like Germany?
Exactly. And that is where Maud becomes the ultimate strategic asset.
Her bloodline.
Precisely. Carl's Danish lineage fulfilled the Scandinavian part, but Maud's immediate direct membership in the British royal house was the dealmaker. Her father was the king of the United Kingdom.
With the world's dominant navy and a global empire.
So by picking Carl, Norway instantly secured a vital diplomatic link to Britain, which lent massive immediate legitimacy and a degree of protection to the new nation.
So Carl only accepted the offer after a national plebiscite confirmed public support for a monarchy.
Yes, he accepted, and he transformed into King Haakon VII. And their 2-year-old son, Prince Alexander, was renamed Olav.
And just like that, Maud was transformed into the queen consort of an independent Norway, the first one in over 500 years.
That single moment solidified her name in history, even before any explorers got involved.
And the crowning moment came the next year.
The coronation of King Haakon VII and Queen Maud at Nidaros Cathedral in Trondheim on June 22, 1906. It was a massive symbol of Norway's new freedom.
And interestingly, the last coronation ever held in Scandinavia.
Which just gives it this enormous historical weight.
So now she's queen, but the sources are very clear. Maud never stopped feeling British. She still saw Britain as her true home, insisted on those yearly visits to Appleton House.
Right.
So how did she balance that personal homesickness with the national requirement to be, well, authentically Norwegian?
And that's really the essence of her effective reign. She kept her strong personal ties to England, but she completely understood that her public persona had to serve the new Norwegian state.
So she adopted this remarkably discreet public role.
Very discreet. She avoided politics, but she played a strong, even dominant role within the court and the family itself. She was the one ensuring that the standards of the new royal household were, unimpeachable.
And that focus on appearance and standards, it extended to how they were visually presented to the Norwegian people.
Oh, absolutely. This was calculated nation building 101. To project an image of, national pride and continuity, she and Haakon intentionally participated in public spectacles.
Like being photographed in traditional Norwegian folk costumes.
Yes, and, crucially, taking part in winter sports like skiing. They were actively cultivating an image of a rugged, traditional, yet modern Norwegian royal family. This was a strategic move specifically to give them a Norwegian appearance in the eyes of the public.
So she had this quiet, almost behind-the-scenes influence, even though she apparently disliked the public performance of it all.
She reportedly disliked the representation, but she performed her role meticulously. She used her elegant clothing and jewelry to make a proper regal impression.
And she got a reputation for being exceptionally chic.
So much so that her wardrobe was the subject of a major 2005 exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum. It was called Style and Splendor. That shows you her lasting influence on fashion.
It's a fascinating duality, isn't it? This serious devotion to public performance, combined with a very private, energetic, side fond of practical jokes.
Yeah, she sounds like a dynamic figure behind closed doors. She was demanding but loyal. And her influence was often highly practical.
Like the story about the stables.
Right. Her passion for writing. She was so insistent on quality that she personally supervised the upgrading of the Royal Palace stables in Oslo, taking inspiration directly from the Royal Mews in London.
So she was essentially using her British knowledge to help modernize Norway's royal infrastructure.
Exactly, making sure everything met the highest European standard.
And beyond the court and the fashion, her charitable work was also quite significant.
She really leveraged her position for philanthropic impact. Her focus was on children, animals, and the arts. During World War I, she headed the Queen's Relief Committee.
But maybe most surprisingly, she supported what was then a very radical cause.
Yes, in 1906, she provided crucial support to the feminist Kari Anker Miller's Home for Unwed Mothers. For a queen consort at that time, that was a very progressive stance to take.
So what we have is a stabilizing, influential queen whose biggest contribution was providing this steady, legitimate foundation for a brand new nation.
Exactly. And that political stability then directly feeds into the massive expansion of Norwegian ambition on the world stage.
The fledgling nation, buoyed by the legitimacy of its British-linked monarchy, was suddenly able to sponsor these ambitious explorations.
Explorations that would literally fix Maud's name onto the map of the world. Her soft power enabled the hard geographical claims.
And now we transition from the quiet elegance of Appleton House to the largest, coldest, most challenging landmass on Earth, Antarctica. And Queen Maud Land is not just a named feature, it is an immense geopolitical claim.
The scale is almost impossible to wrap your head around. Queen Maud Land is this vast region in East Antarctica, stretching from 20 degrees west to 45 degrees east.
We're talking about approximately 2.7 million square kilometers.
To help visualize that, it's roughly the combined land area of France, Spain, and Germany. It's just huge.
And despite its monumental size, the region was incredibly slow to be explored.
Well, yeah, it was first sighted way back in 1820 by Bellingshausen, but the logistical challenges were just too great for traditional expeditions.
You needed a revolution in technology.
You did. You needed robust ships that could handle the pack ice, and critically, you needed aircraft.
And the Norwegians, riding this wave of their new national identity, were masters of this exploration push.
They really were. The actual naming of Queen Maud Land happened in January 1930.
By Norwegian explorers Hjalmar Reiser-Larsen and Finn Lutz-Holm.
Yes. During the Norwegia expedition, it was a direct tribute to their reigning queen.
But this gesture of naming the territory, it escalated very sharply into a full-blown geopolitical crisis in 1939. This is where world powers started, literally staking flags on the ice.
It was an incredibly tense situation, and it was driven almost entirely by economics.
Whaling.
In the 1930s, the Norwegian whaling industry in the Southern Ocean was hugely lucrative. It was a multi-million kroner industry, vital to their national economy.
And without a formal claim, their ships risked international interference.
Exactly. Norway needed a legal stake in the region to protect their industry.
So the annexation was strategic protection, not just some casual land grab.
Precisely. Norway officially annexed the territory on January 14, 1939, via a royal decree. And they moved fast because they knew other nations were planning similar moves.
And they were right.
They were. The urgency is just dramatically underscored by the immediate response from Germany.
Tell us more about this German rivalry. It sounds like something out of a thriller.
Well, just 5 days after Norway's annexation was declared, the German Antarctic expedition, led by Alfred Richer, arrived in the pack ice.
So they were already on their way.
They were. Germany was aggressively trying to secure territory and resources before the outbreak of World War II. And during Richer's mission, they photographed an enormous area, about 350,000 square kilometers, using 2 flying boats launched by catapult.
And they left more than just photographs, didn't they?
They did. They dropped these metal darts inscribed with swastikas every 26 kilometers across the region.
Symbolically claiming it for the Third Reich.
Yes. They attempted to name the territory New Swabia. It was a bold, preemptive attempt to get a toehold in Antarctica.
But history intervened.
Right. Germany lost the claim after the war, which left the Norwegian boundary to be finalized through negotiations with the UK. It's just amazing how close Norway came to losing that claim, just days after making it.
And if we look at the geography of Queen Maud Land today, you can really see why it was so difficult to claim and explore in the first place.
Most of it is just covered by the East Antarctic ice sheet. And crucially, the coast is not a gentle slope.
No, it's a sheer ice wall.
A sheer ice wall, typically 20 to 30 meters high, which is a logistical nightmare for any ships trying to land. It's basically an impenetrable fortress of ice.
So you can only get ashore in a few select spots.
Exactly, where the ice is calved or retreated slightly. And then inland, about 150 kilometers from the coast, you start to see mountains breaching the ice cap.
These are known as nunataks.
Right. And the highest point is Jökulkirkja, or the Glacier Church, which rises to over 3,000 meters.
And the sea bordering this vast territory is named after Maud's husband.
Yes, the King Haakon VII Sea, a royal pair on the map.
So what's the status of the territory today?
Well, today it's categorized as a Norwegian dependency, but its legal status is fundamentally governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, which was established in 1961.
The treaty is critical. It essentially freezes all existing territorial claims. It doesn't recognize them, but it doesn't dispute them either.
Right. The core principles are that the continent must be used only for peaceful purposes. No military activity and scientific investigation has to be free and cooperative.
So while Norway administers the region, they can't exploit its resources or restrict scientific access.
Which makes the scientific infrastructure there even more important. It's the primary way nations project influence and cooperation under the treaty.
And Queen Maud Land is now a global scientific hub.
It is. It hosts 12 active research stations from multiple nations, 6 of which are occupied year-round. Norway's own facility, Troll Station, was upgraded in 2005 for year-round operation.
And maintaining operations this far south has to be an incredible logistical challenge.
It's monumental. They operate something called Dromland, the Dronning Maud Land Air Network project.
And this isn't just a Norwegian operation.
No, it's a massive multilateral cooperation. It connects the stations with flights from Cape Town, South Africa to the Troll airfield, and then distributes supplies and people from there. It's a shared logistics model that's absolutely essential for survival.
What kind of science are we talking about? What are they learning there?
It's crucial stuff for global climate science. Troll Station focuses on atmospheric measurements, greenhouse gases. India's station focuses on geology, giving us insight into the ancient supercontinent Gondwana. It's a truly cooperative scientific effort.
And the environment itself is also remarkably rich, especially with bird life.
Oh, the ecological highlights are astounding. You take Svarthamaren Mountain. It hosts Antarctica's largest known inland colony of breeding seabirds, nearly 1 million individuals.
Wow.
We're talking 250,000 pairs of Antarctic petrels, plus snow petrels and South Polar skuas. It's incredible.
And the seals in the King Haakon VII Sea are representative of the whole Antarctic ecosystem.
They are. All 4 true Antarctic seals are found there: Weddell, leopard, craybeater, and crucially, the rare Ross seal. The King Haakon VII Sea has the greatest known numbers of the Ross seal, which is the least commonly seen species.
And the modern royal connection has been kept alive, too.
Indeed. In 2005, Queen Sonja became the first queen ever to visit Antarctica, traveling to Queen Maud Land. And 10 years later, King Harold V became the first reigning monarch in the world to visit the continent.
So Maud's namesake territory remains central to the identity of the Norwegian royal house.
So now we move to Maud's second massive Antarctic namesake.
And this one is tied not to a geopolitical claim, but to one of the most heroic and tragic periods of Norwegian history: the race for the South Pole,
The Queen Maud Mountains.
a major group of mountains that form a key part of the huge Transantarctic Mountains.
Right. They lie between the massive Beardmore and Reedy glaciers. This is the range that defines that crucial path from the Ross Ice Shelf up onto the high polar plateau.
And the naming is directly linked to the legendary Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen,
Yes, he named them in November 1911.
as his South Pole party was ascending the treacherous Axel Heiberg Glacier.
Exactly. It was a direct, immediate tribute to the Queen, who represented the independent nation that had sponsored his voyage. He embedded her name into the history of polar conquest at the very moment of Norwegian triumph.
The geological description of the range makes it sound absolutely colossal. It's described as a massive horst structure.
If we translate that geological jargon, a horst is basically a vast rectangular block of the Earth's crust that's been pushed straight upward.
Creating an immense sheer mountain barrier.
A geologic accident on a colossal scale. From the north, the perspective is just overwhelming. You first hit these dark-colored foothills. Then you get to these immense tabular mountain masses, some reaching up to 13,000 feet. They have these really distinct horizontal layers of sandstone capped by what's called dolerite sills.
Which gives them a very regular flat-topped look.
It does. It's the ultimate natural barrier. But what makes these mountains so important in exploration history is that they're cut through by these colossal glaciers.
Which serve as the only possible, though very dangerous, highways to the interior.
Exactly. The glaciers are the gatekeepers. The routes that Scott, Shackleton, and Amundsen all fought to master.
Let's just talk about the scale of some of these routes.
You have the Beardmore Glacier. It's one of the largest valley glaciers in the world. 200 kilometers long, 40 kilometers wide.
Unbelievable.
Then you have the Amundsen Glacier, the Shackleton Glacier, the Scott Glacier. They're all major features on a similar scale.
So whether you were trying to reach the pole in 1911 or you're surveying the ice today, Maud's Mountains define the challenge. Her name is just inextricably linked to the physical route of heroic exploration.
And it's important to remember that Maud's influence extends far beyond the Antarctic.
Right. Her third major namesake takes us to the complete opposite end of the globe.
To the Canadian Arctic, the Queen Maud Gulf.
This waterway is in Nunavut, Canada, between the mainland coast and Victoria Island. What's fascinating is that this name actually came first.
It did. Roald Amundsen named the Gulf in 1905 before he named the mountains.
So this was during his first transit of the Northwest Passage.
Yes, aboard the Jaya. Naming this key navigational feature after the new Queen of Norway was a clear, early sign of his devotion to the new monarchy she helped stabilize.
So Amundsen was basically establishing a pattern. Wherever Norwegian ambition took him, Maud's name followed.
And this Arctic namesake holds significant importance today. Environmentally, it's known as the Queen Maud Gulf Migratory Bird Sanctuary, a vast haven for Arctic wildlife.
And it also connects Maud's name to maybe the most famous British Arctic mystery of all time.
The Franklin Expedition.
That's right. In 2014, the wreck of HMS Erebus from Sir John Franklin's lost expedition of 1845 was finally found in the eastern part of the Queen Maud Gulf.
It's incredible. It links Maud's name not just to Norwegian success, but to the enduring epic legacy of British failure and resilience in the Arctic.
So you have this massive global footprint, a 2.7 million square kilometer geopolitical claim, the gateway to the South Pole, and the site of a famous historical wreck.
All bearing the name of Princess Harry, the homesick queen who loved gardening in Norfolk.
The irony is just incredible.
It is. Her contribution wasn't through exploration herself, but through providing that soft power, the legitimate national stability that allowed the explorers and the government to project Norwegian power onto the global map.
Maud's life, which began in the Victorian era and spanned the dramatic birth of a nation, came to an unexpected end in 1938.
It did. She had traveled to England in October 1938, maintaining that annual tradition of visiting Appleton House.
And while she was there, she became ill.
She did. She underwent an abdominal operation for advanced cancer on November 16th in London, and King Haakon immediately rushed from Norway to be at her bedside.
But despite surviving the surgery, her recovery was short-lived.
Tragically so. Maud died unexpectedly just 4 days later on November 20th, 1938. 6 days shy of her 69th birthday.
And the immediate cause of death was coronary thrombosis.
Yes. It was a shock to both the British and Norwegian royal families and the public.
And her death was a significant historical marker for the British royal family as well.
It was. At the time she passed away, she was the last surviving child of King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra. Her death really closed a significant chapter in the history of the House of Windsor.
The reaction in Norway showed how deeply entrenched she'd become.
It did. Norwegian newspapers were actually permitted to break the traditional law forbidding publication on Sundays, just so they could immediately inform the public of the tragic news.
Her body was then returned to Norway with full ceremonial honors.
A fitting tribute. Her body was conveyed back to Oslo aboard the Royal Navy flagship, HMS Royal Oak, which highlights that enduring connection to Britain. She was then interred in the Royal Mausoleum at Akershus Castle in Oslo.
And what happened to Appleton House, her beloved English home?
After her death, King Haakon, recognizing that her tie to the property was what mattered most, returned Appleton House to the British royal family. It was a final, symbolic gesture honoring her lifelong preference for that home.
So if we stand back and look at the scope of her lasting influence, it's truly monumental. This woman, who loved her private life and her English garden,
now has her identity defined by the world's most remote, cold, and vast territories. Her geographical footprint remains her perpetual, concrete legacy, etched across maps produced all over the world.
you have the trifecta. First, Queen Maud Land.
The 2.7 million square kilometer Norwegian territorial claim in Antarctica, a zone vital for climate science.
Second, the Queen Maud Mountains.
The crucial Transantarctic range named by Amundsen, defining that heroic route to the South Pole, a place synonymous with human endurance.
And third, the Queen Maud Gulf.
The Canadian Arctic waterway, linking her name to Amundsen's early triumphs and the famous Franklin mystery.
And the legacy extends beyond just the ice and rock. It's in cultural touchstones, including vessels and even food.
Amundsen again. He named his specially designed Arctic ship, launched in 1916, the Maud. This ship became a legendary vessel in polar history.
And more recently, the modern Royal Norwegian Navy has a replenishment ship, the HNMS Maud.
Which also carries her honor.
And my favorite part of the legacy, the dessert.
Of course. The Queen Maud fromage, a delicious, sweet dessert, often served in Norway, is named after her. It adds a much sweeter, more domestic note to her otherwise geographically immense legacy.
And finally, we even see her name persist in popular culture today.
We do. There's the Norwegian pop group Dronning Maud's Land, Queen Maud's Land.
And her name reached a global cinematic audience with John Carpenter's famous 1982 film, The Thing.
Right. The initial discovery of the alien ship is by a Norwegian Antarctic research team, and that entire sequence is definitively set in Queen Maud Land. Her name is globally ubiquitous, defining territory, logistics, science, and exploration across 2 continents.
So what does this all mean? We started with a private woman, nicknamed Harry, who used her bicycle and her practical jokes to navigate life.
Yet she became queen of a brand new nation, established by a single strategic vote.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, her quiet legitimacy was the currency Norway needed in 1905.
Exactly. The political stability she provided, that British connection, the sense of permanence, it was the necessary precondition for Norway's subsequent global projection.
Without that secure foundation, the government would never have had the confidence or the diplomatic standing to sponsor explorers like Amundsen or make that crucial strategic claim in 1939.
Her discreet service directly translated into a massive global reach, ensuring her name is now inextricably linked to the history of polar discovery.
It's a legacy forged not through grand personal adventures in the snow, but through quiet geopolitical service and the powerful symbolism of the crown.
Which really raises an important question for you, the learner, to consider. A woman who was consistently homesick for England and preferred her private country estate now has her name used on maps by nations, including Canada, the UK, and Norway, to define these vast remote territories. So is her greatest legacy the stability she provided the fledgling Norwegian monarchy, allowing it to survive a tumultuous century? Or is it the accidental global reach her name achieved through the Norwegian exploration that followed? Think about the unexpected ways that soft power and discretion can influence the map of the world and the course of history.